Hey, it's Vass here from Metro Hobbies, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at the new ARRMA Fireteam, which is a huge 1/7 scale monster truck, buggy, military looking vehicle. Comes in a couple of different colors, it's got a heap of new features, so let's have a closer look at it. Okay, so once you get the car out of the box, of course you are going to get the car fully assembled and ready to go. You're going to have your remote and you get a bag full of goodies. Now we'll go through this bag as quickly as possible. If you've seen some of the other ARRMA unboxings I've done here on the channel, you're probably pretty familiar with what you're going to get here, but we'll run through it as per normal. First thing in my hand here is the optional speed pinion. This will of course give you a little bit more top speed. It is of course advised that you do that on mainly flat ground so you don't overheat the electrics, but if you wanted to reach the top advertised speed for this vehicle, you'd use that pinion. You do get some tools in the bag as well as per normal. ARRMA have been including these tools now for a number of years. These are really handy. The Allen keys can be a little bit soft, especially for some of the screws that are metal to metal. You might want to use a heat gun or something like that, or perhaps even invest in some better quality Allen keys. But you know, the cross wrenches and everything there work perfectly fine, and it's good that they keep including these little kits in there. There are some diff shims included as well in case you actually need to install these. So just be mindful, check over your diffs and everything, and if you need to fit them, you can. Some optional shock pistons, so you can actually tune up the suspension. They also give you some blank ones, so you can even create your own sort of piston if you want to do that. Of course, you get some extra stickers. Of course, who doesn't like stickers? And of course, you get the always comprehensive and detailed manual that ARRMA provide with their vehicles. There's a little sheet on the back here with all the exploded views and part numbers and so forth. That's actually upside down, so that's this guy here. There's plenty of information in there if you want to do any maintenance on the vehicle or if you need to order some parts. Some warranty information and so forth is in here, and of course the all-important manual, which I know a lot of you are probably just going to throw into the bottom of a drawer, but for those of you who are fairly new to RC, just be sure to read through it, check out the charging instructions, all the safety precautions, how to operate the radio, what all the little dials and buttons and things like that do on the radio. All of that information will be in here. How to turn it on, what the ESC settings are out of the box, and what options you have for tuning, and of course maintenance schedules, how to do the maintenance, what you need to do. All of that information is in here, and I'm pretty sure that is pretty much it. So very nice manual, exploded views and so forth, so everything is there for you. Now for the radio itself, this is the SLT3, which is a nice little radio that they're now including with some of ARRMA vehicles. You have the on and off switch back here. You've got some reverse switches on the back here, which generally you shouldn't really need to touch those. But you do have one switch on the back, which is the 50, the 75 and 100%. So this allows you to reduce the top speed of the vehicle until you actually get used to it. So you can start off at 50% if you want to run 6S, and then as you get familiarize yourself with the speed and the handling of the vehicle, crank that up to 75, and then eventually go to 100. On the front of the radio, you'll have a steering dual rate, so this will actually limit the angle of steering that you have. You have your steering trim and of course throttle trim. Now throttle trim you shouldn't really need to touch on an electric vehicle, but steering trim might be needed just to align the wheels and make sure they center correctly. Wheel is foam, and you've got a nice weighted trigger on here as well. There is a third button on this controller, which we'll discuss in a little bit when I take the body off the car, but this is actually for the handbrake. So you'll need to sort of familiarize yourself with that, and you flick that to actually activate the handbrake. Radio works on 4 AA's as per standard. No collapsible antennas to break off or anything like that. Really nice, comfortable feel in the hand. These radios have actually been really good with these ARRMA vehicles. Okay, so now for the main event, we have the car itself. And this thing's big. So overall, this is based on the Mojave chassis, which is a big sort of desert truck that ARRMA have had now for a couple of years. And essentially, they've done what some people in the RC community have done, which is to take the Mojave chassis and put Creighton arms on it. So this widens it out a little bit. But of course, when you start sort of modifying a car like this, there aren't bodies really ready for it. So people have kind of been retrofitting other bodies to try and make it look okay, because it is a unique size, it doesn't really match. And ARRMA have kind of looked at that and gone, well, that's a pretty good idea. Why don't we do that with this one? And the Fireteam was born. So They've put the arms, they've changed a few things on here as well, and of course they've created this really nice roll cage with the little dudes in here. So Fireteam is actually a military actual team, so it's based on a real thing, and I think a lot of countries around the world actually use this particular kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, like a SWAT team. So they go out and they do their thing, and hence why they got little guns on them and things like that. The design overall is very cool. They've got this black one, there's also a white one, and then you've got these big monster tires on here. Now the tires are a bit of a unique look. So if you've ever seen any of the more advanced kind of high-tech military vehicles, some of them actually have airless tires, and essentially they have this kind of honeycomb design to give them the cushioning that you'd expect from a tire that has air. But of course we can't do that in an RC, so they've kind of just put the pattern on the side of the tire, but you still have a regular tire with foam inside and so forth. The rubber itself actually feels pretty grippy, and the tire molds really well, so these should hopefully hook up okay. And of course it's running on standard 17mm hexes. Now to remove the body, it's very simple. There are 3 body pins on the top here, 1 at the front, 2 in the back. So they've done this to make it as simple and as easy to access inside as possible. So 1 at the front here and 2 at the back here. Now you just need to be really careful when removing body pins from these ARRMA vehicles, never to really pull on the tethers that are on the pins. If you pull on this, you can tear them. So always try and grip the little loop on the pin and push from the other side as well. And then that way, you won't rip them, because the tethers are really there just so you don't lose the body pins. And then once you've got all that removed, the body will basically pop out just like so. So really nice, clever design. It's very rigid, it's very tough. So it's got this exo cage, and you've got bits of, panels of Lexan and plastic kind of holding everything together. And then of course you've got the little dudes in there, which actually looks really good. There's a little bit of dash detail, and there's a steering wheel and that. So it looks very scaled, it's very nice. And the whole thing sort of locks into place. So it doesn't just sit on top of the car. There are actually little locking pins. So you'll see these little holes here. There are little pins on the actual chassis there to actually help guide and lock the body into position, so it stays in there, it's nice and rigid and looks like it's all one piece. Front and rear bumpers on this guy feel really good. The front bumper's got a little bit more softness, but once it locks into the cage, obviously that enhances it, so it should take a fair hit. The back has a lot of reinforcement that you'll see here, so if you do take a hit on the back, it should last quite a while. You've got 5mm drive shafts going all the way through. So essentially this is the front and rear end of a Kraton 6S. So you've got the big shocks. You've got one thing they've done with the shocks too is they haven't made them red, they've made them black on this one, which I really like that. It stealths it up a little bit. It doesn't stand out like a sore thumb against these type of vehicles, so really like that they've changed the color on those. And then you've got the center brace going all the way through from front to back, so this helps keep the chassis nice and straight. And then on the back here you'll see an additional servo, and there's a nice little mechanism there. This is for your handbrake, so this adds a new dynamic to your driving experience. Of course you don't have to use the handbrake, it's there as an option. You can even remove it if you want to, but it's a nice little feature to have. As you're driving and bashing around, you can do some really cool maneuvers and skid into corners and things like that. I think it's a really nice thing to include in a bash vehicle. I have seen these, of course, in the ARRMA Infraction in the past, and there's been handbrake features in other vehicles as well from different brands, but I don't think I've ever seen it in a bash vehicle, so really cool that they've trialing this one out. You've got the same 2050 4074mm brushless motor, 150 amp ESC, nice beefy steering servo in the front, and then of course you've got these 5mm shock towers front and rear as well. The usual steering knuckles, usual arms and so forth that you'll find on all the ARRMA vehicles. Really nice beefy chassis on this guy, 3mm chassis, which for the most part does hold up pretty well. You got sway bars pre-installed front and rear. You got 3 sealed diffs. And they've also including in the center diff is actually the aluminium casing in the center diff. Previously with a lot of the ARRMA vehicles, they only had the plastic casing. Now I can see that they've actually got the alloy casing in there, which is a really nice feature. And other cool little things that they've done. You've got the push button on the ESC as opposed to the sliding button. You've got the safety lock pinion so that it has a little E-clip on the end so it doesn't slide out. There's a lot of really cool little things that they've put on here. You got a fan mounted already on the motor to keep the motor nice and cool, which is a nice thing because I know when I had my Mojave V1, it didn't have a fan on the motor, and if you ran that thing a little bit hard, the motor did tend to get a bit hot because the car is quite big. This system is really designed more for 8 scale, so when you go a bit bigger, it's good to have a fan on there to keep the motor temps at bay. So adjustable body posts at the rear. Don't really have one at the front, but I'm pretty sure you could modify that quite easily. And that pretty much wraps this one up. Very beefy car. EC5 connectors or IC5 connectors included, which of course are compatible with EC5. Really like the look of this. The entire theme is of course subjective. I know some people may not like the whole military thing, but the car itself, there we go, just locks into place like so. You just got to line it up a little bit. The car itself feels really nice and strong. The tires feel good. The roll cage feels sturdy, especially when you lock it in with the pins and everything. It doesn't feel flimsy. It doesn't feel like it's tacked on. It locks into place really nice. And from what I've seen online, this car goes pretty hard. It's a pretty mean machine. And who knows, maybe one day we'll get our hands on one and give you a bit of a test drive here at the shop as well. But that pretty much wraps this one up. Okay, so that brings us to the end of yet another unboxing. Hopefully you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button before you go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, check out the video description down below. We'll have links in there to the ARRMA Fireteam trucks, as well as batteries and charger and everything else that we can supply. So get this guy up and running. That is it from me. Thank you again for watching, and I'll be speaking to you all next time.